Okay, let's try number 5 here. This one has some interesting features in it, including a fair number of diphthongs. So let's listen to the whole thing first.
It snowed, rained, and hailed the same morning.
Okay, so generally speaking, this looks good as a transcription. So one thing I'd point out first, though, is that just to make your lives a little bit easier, you only really need to transcribe stress if you have a word that has more than one syllable, like morning. In which case, this person has correctly transcribed stress on the first syllable.
The same morning.
Somewhere over here.
Morning.
Um, this person also has stress transcribed in every single other word. You don't really need to worry about it. And it's also kind of not entirely appropriate. So, like, often these function words, these single syllable function words like it and the will just go by quickly and are not really stressed or accented in any meaningful way.
It snowed, rained, and hailed the same morning.
So, like, some of these words, like same, or snowed, rained, hailed.
Snowed, rained, and hailed.
Like, are obviously a little more prominent than the other words in their surroundings, but that's not stress. That's not something like defined in the lexicon for those words. It's more just like my dad emphasizing them in this context. So in that case, we'd use a different system of transcription for intonation to indicate that they have accents on them rather than stress. So I know you're hearing something which is good, but you just set it aside unless you hear a word that has more than one syllable in it, and then try to figure out where stress is. And in the case of morning, this is transcribed correctly in terms of its stress. What else is going on here? Let's focus on the first part.
It snowed.
Which the candidate transcriber agrees with me basically perfectly. It snowed.
It snowed.
I actually wanted to take a moment to kind of compare the O in snowed with the O that we got in colt on the previous exercise. So let's zoom in there. So this is colt here.
Colt.
And maybe you can hear that this snowed O is a diphthong, and the O in colt is not so much of a diphthong.
No.
So it's kind of no, and he's rounding his lips more as he goes through the whole thing. And that one kind of stays in the same spot. Versus no. Yeah, so that's a diphthong. So good catch there, and it's transcribed with the tie bar, which makes it look all nice and pretty. So well done. Rained. Yeah, so this is one case. We looked at, I've been using this curly Q upside down R symbol for the in English, and a few other people have been using the upside down R generally. That's okay. But what's not really okay is using the right side up R, because that's the R symbol. So it'd be like rained. Which is not the way it's being said here, right? So turn it upside down and put the curly Q on the right hand side, and it should be all good. I don't have anything else to say about this except the diphthong in the middle is a little bit nasalized. Maybe you can hear that more at the tail end. But that's nasalization. It helps to kind of zoom in this case, if you're not sure if it's nasalized or not, and just play that part of the vowel. You can do that easily in Prot, so I'd encourage you to do that with the usual caveats about taking these sounds out of context. It can make it sound a little odder than it would, or fool your mind, I guess, in terms of like how to interpret the context a little bit.
And hailed.
Yeah, so we got another N here. How is it pronounced? This person transcribed it as schwa N, which is a pretty good guess for most ands in English. I've got it as epsilon N. You might be able to hear that epsilon here. And maybe a little bit nasalized because there's an N here.
Hailed.
Something funny happens here to the H. This person has transcribed this as hailed, which is reasonable. The H, though, winds up being a breathy voiced H. Just because it's in between other voiced things, so it's hailed, which again wouldn't make sense out of context.
Hailed.
You don't normally say it like that, but when it's in context, you just keep the voicing going through the H, and it becomes like that.
Hailed.
One thing I'll point out again, just watch out for this with the L's. They're typically going to be dark in Canadian English or American English. Like that. It's hailed as opposed to hailed.
And hailed.
I'm teaching this course on varieties of English at the moment, and like Irish English traditionally has clear L's everywhere. So be hailed as opposed to hailed. That's a clear L versus a dark L. Otherwise, that looks good. And we got the same morning.
The same morning.
I don't think I have a whole lot to say here. I think we agree perfectly in terms of the segments involved. So there's not much to add to that. There can be some nasalization here though, like an aim.
Same.
I can kind of see it a little bit more at the second part of the aim than the first. So here's the first part. Here's the second part. For some reason, when I try to demonstrate nasalization in vowels, I always like crinkle up my nose when I'm doing it. You don't need to do that when you nasalize a vowel, but maybe you can see it better that way.
Morning.
Yeah, and then this here at the tail end is a little bit creaky. That's why I have the tilde underneath it. We can listen to the O before it.
More.
I've got this as
More.
nasalized. I probably shouldn't have it as nasalized. I probably should have it as rhoticized instead, because there's an R right after that. So bad on me for that. But at least I'm drawing your attention to it now. But like I said, stress is on the first syllable here, so good job with that.
Same morning.
You just don't have to worry about it all the time. And I'd say overall good transcription here. Let's listen to it one more time.
It snowed, rained, and hailed the same morning.
And yet still the post office got the mail to everybody in the town. All right, we're done with number 5. Let's do number 6 to finish up here in just a second.